Did you ever hear the term good guys finish last? Well, I'm just throwing this out there for the sake of discussion, but is it possible that extreme narcissism could be a reaction to this phrase? In other words, could the male narcissist be some kind of extreme reaction to the fact that good guys finish last, and so that they place more stock in actually being bad because they've tried it out and seen that it worked, and so they continued this pattern and almost like went to the far extreme other direction because they were at once being good with females and they weren't getting any results, so they then just did a 180 and went in the complete opposite direction. Is that at all possible? I was just kind of thinking about it. If you notice, and I'm not saying this is correct, but if there are a lot of females that will marry a kind of like boring square who they're not really, maybe he makes good money and they're kind of he provides the security factor, let's just say, that she's looking for. So she goes ahead and marries this person, but then she's not really satisfied, so then she starts cheating, which again, I'm not saying is the correct thing to do, but she starts looking elsewhere outside of her marriage because I think what happens is with boring squares, you're not getting the excitement factor. Women like danger. So boring square does not equate to wet panties, let's just say. So what happens is they start looking for the danger outside of the relationship because they're not getting the adrenaline and their kind of excitement needs met. Maybe the guy's like non-stop working, doesn't even come home at night, who knows. So the female is bored to death, and so in comes the narcopath or some, bad boy who's dangerous, who's wild, who's up and down, who's all over the place. And so she all of a sudden somehow gets some excitement needs met. Is that at all possible? Because you hear of this happening all the time. And so narcissists are extremely astute and perceptive of what's going on, and they also hone in on people's behaviors, and they study them. The one I knew actually worked in like a bar club type thing, so he and he was in a band, so there really wasn't a shortage of women, but he also, because he was in this bar type atmosphere, he oftentimes would tell me stories of females rejecting males. Like, in other words, he could study day and night. He would study the human behavioral patterns of things that were going on that he would see there. And so I'm almost wondering if it almost was like some kind of solution, like he saw that these kind of chump type males were just getting totally walked over and just not given the time of day by females, and so hence maybe the narcissist was born. He knew that the women are actually more receptive to males that treat them like garbage. especially if they're sexually attracted to the male that treats them like garbage. They'll sit there and put up with that because they're physically attracted to that person, instead of dealing with the boring square who they may have just married for the stability component, the stability factor. Now, this narc also did say he was abused in his childhood, but would not go into any detail about it. For the most part. I mean, he said little things here and there, but I really wasn't getting the full picture. But then I started thinking that he has been observing these male-female relationships because he's in that type of environment where you can observe that day and night. And so did this come about as some kind of adaptation for the fact that he could see the good guys were just got dogged out, stomped on, walked over, chewed up and spat out, and so he just was like, well, I'm going down the bad boy route. The bad boys get all the attention and that, have women throwing themselves on them and things of that nature. It's just something to consider. I don't know. It's definitely something that has to really be considered, because if you notice, the people that are ruthless and will step on other people and do anything required are the people that actually climb up the ladder in various jobs and things like that. So the people with worse behaviors are the ones that are getting ahead. So, I mean, did they just observe and be like, well, okay, well then that's what I'm going to do? I mean, it's definitely something to consider.